All right, let's take you back to one of our top stories, and that is, of course, the JSC interviews that are currently underway. That is day 6. Of course, we're wrapping the day with Chris Oxtoby, Freedom Under Law Research Consultant. Chris, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, we were talking last week about some of the candidates and what we were, watching unfold before our eyes, including that one candidate who was there vying for a multiple number of, positions, but at the same time hoping to catch one. And that's raising issues of criteria. And I'm keen to hear your thoughts a little later on when it comes to the issue of criteria and whether or not you think it's being dealt with. But what are your impressions this week and how things have gone?
Well, I mean, it's been a dramatic week. I think the interviews yesterday for the Western Cape Judge President position were always going to be a dramatic moment, because obviously this is taking the place that was vacated when the former Judge President Hlophe was impeached. And we saw an unusually contested position where we had 7 candidates being interviewed. It's very unusual for that many candidates to be putting themselves into the ring at the same time. And of course, we saw quite a lot of dirty laundry about the Western Cape Court being aired. So I think that was a dramatic day. Today, somewhat less dramatic, with entry-level positions for that court being interviewed. I think overall, and perhaps to touch slightly on your criteria point, I think there are some encouraging signs from how the JSC has been going about its work. There is certainly a rigor that many of the commissioners are bringing to interrogating candidates' judgments, candidates' understanding of the law. And that's something that has often not been the case from the JSC in the past. So I think that's an encouraging development. I think there are also promising signs in how Chief Justice Meyer has been chairing the JSC. She has been praised in the past for how she's chaired it when she's filled in as Deputy Chief Justice. But I think you can see she's been very proactive to try and get on top of issues of timekeeping quite early. She's been quite quick to cut commissioners off when she feels that they've been straying from relevant questions, or when they've had too many bites of the cherry. And that's important because staying to time has been something the JSC has struggled with a lot. So I think those are promising signs. But of course, some of the challenges that the judiciary does face are clear to see, thinking particularly of some of the challenges in the Western Cape Court.
And speaking about the Western Cape Court, I'm going to get to the challenges in just a moment, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts on how the interview with Judge Patricia Goliath, in fact, unfolded, because we saw quite a lengthy one and also a number of questions that really raised some serious eyebrows about what exactly is going on in that court.
Look, I think it's been well known for a long time that there has been some serious tensions and difficulties between the judges within the court. There have been several complaints lodged by judges against other judges, which is unusual, but we've seen that happen in the Western Cape Court. I think the whole leadership issue with the former Judge President Hlophe having been under that cloud for so long, which then led to his removal from office, that's clearly had an impact on the functioning of the court and on the relationship between judges. So I do, to an extent, feel a little sorry for Judge Goliath to have picked up that poison chalice in a way, because I think it was always going to be a difficult task to take over in an acting capacity while the whole situation with former Judge Hlophe resolved itself. But that having been said, I think it was also clear from a lot of what came out in yesterday's interview that there were also problems in terms of how she herself was running the court. So, at the end of the day, I think we can just hope that the new judge president being appointed is going to make a difference. I think it was quite significant that the JSC appointed somebody who, although they had sat on the court in the past, Judge Mabindla Bukwana, she has been on the Supreme Court of Appeal most recently. So although she's got a connection to the Western Cape Court, she's also coming into it slightly more fresh than some of the other candidates.
And one would have expected, for example, Judge Goliath to know where to fix, especially given the history that we've seen in that court over time. And one possibly could say, because you've also raised even concerns with the former judge president yourself, surely you should know where to fix. And in the almost 2 years that you were in the position, this should have been your priority areas.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I mean, I can appreciate that it may be difficult for someone who's in a position like that on an acting basis. Perhaps that may hinder them in some way to address these challenges. But I think it's no coincidence that two of the most difficult interviews yesterday were both hers and the acting deputy judge president, Judge Lachranchi. And the JSC was very clear. I mean, it was saying it in terms to both of these judges that they had concerns about how the court had been functioning under their leadership. So, as I say, although I do have a certain sympathy with somebody who picks up a leadership position in such a difficult environment on an acting or temporary basis, clearly the JSC felt that both of those candidates could have done more to address some of these issues. And in some cases, there seems to be an undercurrent that this leadership was in fact perpetuating some difficulties, some of the issues around lack of communication with judges and those kind of questions. So I think it on balance wasn't surprising that we saw the JSC looking to make something of a fresh start in the appointment that it's recommended.
And as you say, let's see if indeed it becomes a fresh start, particularly as we've seen in the past how troubled relations have been and strained in that particular court. But thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate your time this afternoon. That's Chris Oxtoby, the Freedom Under Law Research Consultant.